What's up, everybody? This is Jonathan from Radio Tokyo, and guess what? We're back. It's been, um, what would you say, Nick? Like almost 2 years since we did our last show because we took a little hiatus for 87,000 different reasons, and we're back now, and it's great. It's awesome. It feels good. How are you?
I'm going to say it's been an eternity, and we're in an alternate timeline now, where we're back, or a different dimension. I'm not sure.
Well, see, okay. The last time we left off, believe it or not, is we talked about the exact same topic we're talking about today, and it was Game of Thrones because that was 2 seasons ago. My God, that was 2 seasons ago, and I have thoughts. I have some serious thoughts about it that we can get into. But
you know what the sad thing is? We haven't missed much.
honestly, no, I don't. I don't think that we have missed a lot, because the last time we talked about Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen was blowing shit up. And this time on Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen is blowing shit up. Well, she did. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen this, a total of 3 weeks ago. But let's see. Okay, wait, no, hang on. The last time Daenerys blew stuff up, it was just a Targaryen army, wasn't it?
Okay, I think so.
Yeah, it was because I distinctly remember discussing it because they had that great scene where Jaime is leading the Lannister army back from Highgarden.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
and then he magically cloud armor gets saved.
yes, he jumps into a creek that is some like
No. Braun, or what is his name?
Braun.
Braun magically physically defies the laws of physics, comes from out of nowhere, torpedoes Jaime into the river. It is still one of the most mind-boggling things I've ever seen.
I actually thought it was cool to save him, although I will say, after all the accusations that Game of Thrones has ripped off World of Warcraft in multiple ways, that is very much like the Warlords of Draenor opening cinematic, where Garrosh jumps onto his father and knocks him out of the way of Manoroth blowing up. But that's not the first image Game of Thrones, at least the TV show, has kind of copied. And I feel like it was intentional to do that because there's the one with when the Ice King is flying on, wasn't it Rhaegal that he killed?
I think I'd have to look up the dragons' names too.
It's either Rhaegal or Viserion. I'm sorry, fans of the show that are probably pissed off at me for like, how do you not know that? Well, I know it. I just forgot.
My mind is too focused on so many other things to really worry about that right now.
You'll see, it's not that I'm not worried about it, because I am. It's kind of important to be worried about it if you're a fan of these things. But anyway, back to the point I was going to make. The scene where he uses the totally not hot dragon's fire, which, interestingly enough, if it okay, it's not ice breath. It's supposed to be fire because it totally burns things. But what's weird is that whenever the dragon is raised into undeath, it breathes blue flame, and scientifically, blue flame is actually hotter than like red fire. So that means arguably, the Night King's dragon is more powerful than Daenerys's living dragon, or what? I don't fucking stand it. Whatever. But
Science.
yes, because science. Here I am trying to inject rational thought and science into a TV show with undead and giants and dragons. But anyway, when he blows down the wall and you see the army of the undead flying through, and then the dragon flies overhead. That is a lot like the Wrath of the Lich King opening cinematic, where Arthas has just raised Sindragosa, and you see Sindragosa fly down into you know uh, uh, um, the little valley in front of where she was at and whatnot. And people accuse Game of Thrones of copying that, and now I would dare say that they had copied uh, the not Wrath, the Warlords of Draenor cinematic a little bit, but that is where we left off. Is Jamie having been tackled into an impossibly deep creek? Like that would
Wait,
be.
wait. If they're copying World of Warcraft, is Cersei Sylvanas?
See, here's the funny part. And spoiler alert for those of you who don't play World of Warcraft. I don't know anybody who doesn't, honestly. Um, the whole opening of battle for Azeroth is um, Sylvanas blowing up Lordaeron with green flame. I kind of think Blizzard decided to turn the tables on David Benioff and DB Weiss and did a better well, not necessarily better, um, but did their own version of destroying. Uh, well, okay, hang on a minute. Cersei only blew up one part of King's Landing, and Sylvanas blew up all of Undercity. So didn't blow it up. She just poisoned it forever with a plague developed by the undead that kills living and undead. And I don't understand how it is she is not the Lich Queen at this point in time. Um, no, wait, that would make Sylvanas not Cersei. That would make her kind of like Daenerys, because Daenerys wants to kill everything, and
Uh,
there's like that storyline where Sylvanas wants to destroy Stormwind.
yeah,
And
I was just trying to debate on which one is which, because now Sylvanas wants to destroy Stormwind like Dany would want it to destroy King's Landing. And then, but Cersei uses green flame things. Sylvanas uses green flame things. Is Sylvanas just like some weird combination of the two now?
they might be, and I honestly I really don't know what the fuck's going on anymore. I really don't sometimes. Like you said, it does seem like we're in an alternate reality where Game of Thrones has ended, and I went in, because remember last time we talked about this, when they were burning Last Army. I told you what my mom had said, because for those of you who don't remember the last episode 2 years ago, you know, um, or have never heard it before, my mom and I actually watched Game of Thrones together. And we used to watch it separately so that we could talk about it. You know, like if we missed something, we wouldn't spoil it. But then we got to started watching it together. And when Daenerys flew in and was blowing up the Lannister army, my mom was like, "Motherfucker!" And just they're cheering and screaming. And she didn't quite have that reaction watching Daenerys destroy King's Landing. It was more of a, they're gonna have to kill her now. And I'm like, yeah, they're gonna have to kill her.
So, now that I'm thinking back to that episode, the where Dany destroyed the Lannister army, and I'm thinking about how easy it was for her to destroy King's Landing as is. My question is, why didn't she just take King's Landing then? She had a much more powerful army and 3 dragons compared to 1 dragon.
Well,
And
because
Cersei did not have the ballista fully functional back then. And she did not have the Golden Company either. And her army had just been devastated. There's. It, I, Now I'm just more confused.
there's not much to be confused over. I mean, like, for those of you who are watching at home, we have the clip on the screen where Daenerys is about to destroy things. Um, Obviously, cannot show the entire thing. Definitely cannot play the audio, or we will get in serious trouble. But you can see what we're talking about, where she burns King's Landing. Um, I honestly, I liked this scene. I thought that it was incredibly well done, and um, having watched the show from the beginning, I can see how Daenerys turned into the Mad Queen, and okay, I didn't want to accept it at first, but then I got to where I did, and if you're and like you can see it, and the way um um Emilia Clarke plays it on screen, like you can see the exact moment where Daenerys is like, "Fuck all of you! I'm going to burn you alive because I am totally my father in a woman's body," and it's
I
great. It's wonderful. It really is amazing how they do show her character arc to where she does that.
I
And
mean, I saw the storyline coming a long ways away, like a long time ago. My issue was never with the actual storyline. I think all of the storylines they did could have worked really well, but it was so rushed. Everything was so rushed. I really feel like they needed an entire season just to do Danny's descent into madness.
there
They
really
need
should have been extra effort.
they
Now,
they, they really needed an entire season just for the Night King battle and all of that. There
well,
were
see,
so
okay,
many things that
the
were just
fight with
rushed.
the Night King probably should have been. Oh, gee, I don't know. Maybe more than an episode. Well, technically, it was three altogether, but there should have been a lengthier battle. Do I really
That
want? Do I really want to get into fucking Winterfell?
that
Jesus. Okay.
that you mean the great strategic battle that they fought that made all the sense in the world?
Yes, the amazing, truly stunning Battle of Winterfell. Oh
That
my God! Did you see the way the Dothraki Khalazar charged into the night with their flaming swords? That was wonderful. Did you see Melisandre walk up and set him on fire? And then everybody else is looking at her like, "What, bitch? We don't get fire weapons too?"
did you see the trebuchet sitting in front of the infantry for some reason?
Yes, the goddamn trebuchets and catapults that they had that were there that got used and then just vanished because they do not make a reappearance, and I don't know why. I don't know why. They just like
Because money.
it. It must be because money. I mean, it's not like actually no. I don't think they were even built to be used on the show, like as a prompt because I watched the like the behind the scenes thing, and here's the weird part. I genuinely felt uh on a very emotional level watching the documentary how much love actually went into making it, even though the fans, have problems with it, obviously, because it was rushed, I'll be honest. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Some of the actors feel that way about it too. That's the important thing. They are kind of upset at how the
I,
whole thing played out.
I don't think I saw any actor that was genuinely happy with how things turned out.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he portrayed Varys. He was quite upset. What is his name? What is his name? I know his name. I know his name. I just can't think of it.
Um, hmm.
Anyway, um, there were people that are upset about it.
Conliffe Hill.
Yeah, that's it. Colin Thiel. I'm sorry, I forgot his name because there's so much to remember here. But yeah, it was rushed. It was stupid. It was fucking stupid. I'm sorry, and I know, you know. Okay, the past years, like on social media and whatever, I've tried, not to swear or anything, but god damn it, the show was dumb.
The
It
thing is,
ended. It ended stupidly. The Battle of Winterfell, I had serious problems with, and you mentioned Shadiversity's video about it. Not just him. He is not the only person that noted faults in it. Okay, I am by no means a medieval period expert. I do understand siege warfare and how it works and siege weapons. And they used goddamn siege weapons to defend Winterfell, and they used them one time, and it was just when the Dothraki, literally half of Daenerys's army charges off into the night with their, murder torches, which is I'm not even
it,
going to call them swords. They're murder torches. Is what they were.
it,
And and she hides and she has Jorah with him. And for whatever fucking reason, Ghost, Jon Snow's wolf, runs off with them into the night. And then you hear, all the screaming and stuff. And then all the flames go out, and there's like 5 Dothraki that come riding back with Jorah and Ghost, who has got an ear bitten off and is bloody all over. And you're like, oh, shit, they all got killed. What's going to happen now? And then you see just this massive wave of the undead, come. And for some goddamn reason, for whatever reason in the world, every single one of the Unsullied is outside of Winterfell, and you see them all killed. You cannot deny that the Unsullied did not all get murdered by the undead who just stand there and surround Winterfell because it takes 80,000 people to figure out. Oh well, we gotta light this thing on fire, and they send goddamn Melisandre out there to do it. Melisandre, the woman who has failed at being a red priestess, has failed at doing anything that she's promised. Literally anything comes out there, and I have to give Karis Van Houten credit. I actually felt the fear in her because she didn't think the Lord of Light was going to actually respond to her request to set things on fire.
that
And
that th- there were some really good scenes during it, and I have to say that about kind of all of the episodes during season 8. There were good things there. There were powerful moments there that I really enjoyed and wanted, like, and it was just all in the middle of exposition, kind of, or just these highlights of things, like. And the thing that confuses me the most is how do we go from the Battle of the Bastards, which, sure, it's not the most strategically groundbreaking battle on
it had
for,
serious flaws, but
for,
that's
for a medieval show, but at least it was competent. At least you could see them doing things like shield walls, surrounding people. You
oh
know,
yeah, it's shield walls. Ooh, no. No, 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 no. It's okay.
well, wait. Don't you think a shield wall would be useful against the undead?
Um, how can I put this? They can climb walls, so no. No, okay. Here's the thing.
You'd rather have them just running through everyone like they did?
That's what happened. I mean, what are you supposed to do? There's like 10 million undead, and if you haven't noticed,
Actually, no. I saw someone post the numbers. The armies weren't that big of a difference. From some official estimates, I believe the undead were like 120,000, and the living were about 100,000.
Okay, now look, I have no idea where that figure comes from, but in the context of the show, Daenerys has got like 8,000 unsullied when she crosses uh, the ocean, and I think she bought, or rather freed, 10,000. I think so. Somehow she lost 2,000. From capturing the last city she captured. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, she lost 2,000 capturing Marine, and then the events of that and crossing the sea and whatever. And anyway, she winds up with having about like 8,000 by the time she gets to Winterfell. And the Dothraki, there's probably a similar number, maybe twice that of the Unsullied she had. So she probably realistically had no more than 50,000 soldiers, if that much. And well, actually, yeah, about 100,000 might be accurate total between her and the army of the North.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, but I don't know why the Night King would only have 100,000 whites at his disposal
I
because
I really
because
I really don't know, but those were some of the numbers that I saw. I mean, I'm not, or that's what at least what Shad said on his episode. He said that the armies weren't really that big of a difference.
well, that
Which
might just be what you can see, and trying to estimate something like that is totally different than what it probably would have
I
been
I
because
don't
again they're dead, and
I don't
unless you
know because at the end, all a great majority of the dead are actually dead. It's not until the Night King re-raises everyone that died during the battle that he regains the overwhelming advantage. So if we go based on that, they might be right. They really might be right that the armies because it's really confusing to me because it seems like the Night King has this really overwhelming force, like in the millions or something, um, like in the ancient battles where they're overwhelming forces and they're trying to hold the ground or whatever. But it, based on everything that I saw and the more that I studied it, I really do think that they were rather evenly matched, which the show does a horrible job of portraying if that's true.
they did a really good bad job. I mean, it's not that that's the only thing that they didn't rush through, um, and it's I don't know, man. I really don't know,
Yep.
but
I found it. According to the script, the Night King is leading an army of 100,000 White Walkers. That's all he had.
that's 100,000 White Walkers, not whites. There's a
Well, no,
difference.
no. I mean, oh, okay. I think this article is misspeaking, but I think they mean
Yeah,
whites.
because okay, in the context of the show, the White Walkers are the dudes that look like mummies that typically have like long hair and beards, and they carry spears, and they're the ones that are always on horses. That's like the I guess honor guard, whatever that accompanied the Night King into the Godswood, where he was totally going to kill Bran. Anyway, yeah, those are the White Walkers, and everything else are whites, including the giant drag, not dragon, uh, the giant. Why did I say giant dragon? The giant, and and
I want a giant dragon.
can I just say for a minute here? I want to absolutely congratulate my favorite character in Game of Thrones, and that's saying something because I had several over the course of the series. Um, but I know we mentioned it a while back, like in one of the previous episodes. We had to. If we didn't, I don't know what's wrong with us. But Lyanna Mormont, is probably the best character that has ever been on Game of Thrones.
She's the
And
best character that has been on anything ever.
yeah. And like I realize it's weird. It's like, well, she's 13. No, actually she's 15 when she dies. Spoiler alert, by the way, in case you didn't know. Again, it's been nearly a month. Um, but they definitely gave her a fan service death. And
I was totally fine with it.
I was sitting there cheering. Like I was, yeah, like
The the
crying,
only the
like
only part
crying.
that made me sad was when she actually died. The only
Well,
part.
see, like I was crying my eyes out that she gets killed, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, baby, get up or something. Just acting like that because it was great. It was great. It was a really good death. And if you remember, it's kind of hard not to forget it, but during the whole battle, you notice like when the giant busts in the door, all the grown men run away screaming, and there's some that get knocked out of the way. Uh, but she is the only one who gets up and runs at the goddamn giant, and she's like, ah! She's running towards the giant. And it picks her up in one hand, starts crushing her, and she just pulls out that dagger and stabs that motherfucker in the eye, and she dies before she hits the ground, and it dies, and it's great. And I was like really scared, yeah, scared when the Night King raised everybody that had been killed. Like the defenders, the Dothraki, and everyone else had been defended that were defending Winterfell when he raised them because Lyanna Mormont was among them, and I'm like, oh my god, they're never going to beat him now.
That would be a terrifying film. To try to face an undead Lyanna Mormont.
Because, alive, she's just a genuine badass, but in death, nothing can stop her. But, like, okay, back more on topic rather. That's one of the few things that they did on the show that I thought was well done.
Well,
I guess.
like
I
I was
guess.
saying, there were good moments in almost every episode. Even uh, when they raised King's Landing, the episode between Jaime and Tyrion, or I mean, not the scene between Jaime and Tyrion was super great, well done, powerful. Um, the victory pose of Dany when after the battle was just awesome. Like just seeing the wings unfurl behind her. There were so many really nice, good moments. And it really breaks my heart because I really couldn't enjoy a lot of them.
Okay, I enjoyed it, even though it was definitely rushed. And George R. Martin has even said that he fully expected 10 seasons. And he managed to get them to agree to 8.
Honestly, it's really just 7 with the last one split into 2.
Kind of is. But as it turns out, there was a reason that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss,
They sold out.
they didn't sell out really. There is the excuse me, the other series that they're going to like. There's like prequels to Game of Thrones and whatnot. It's all set in the same universe. It's kind of like that Lord of the Rings.
I don't think they're doing those though, aren't they? I think those are someone else.
I don't know if D&D are going to be doing those, but I did find out the reason that they apparently kind of just rushed through the whole last season is because they had a project that HBO has now sidelined. They proposed it several years ago, and HBO was all in favor of it. And then now that we've seen, uh, you know, the end of Game of Thrones, they're like, no, let's not do that. And other than the performance of Game of Thrones, it's the fact that it's called Confederate, and it's about if the South had won Civil War. And me being a Civil War historian, I think that's a neat idea
Oh, I
in
remember now.
concept. It's really great, to play a what if scenario. But in today's climate, I don't think that there needs to be. Also, sorry if you heard that those helicopters flew overhead while I was talking. Um, I don't necessarily think that that is probably the best thing to have. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to have something Civil War related on TV. I would love to have more Civil War movies. It's a very important part of America's history. Um, but I don't think we need to have a TV show that shows slavery still being legal in the United States.
The moment that I heard that show being proposed, I was just like, this is a terrible idea right now. Well, it's probably going to be a terrible idea forever going forward, but I,
I don't okay. I don't necessarily know about forever, but I would be interested in seeing it done where it is not lost cause mythology being propagated. That would be amazing.
there is no way you're going to get that.
I can hope and dream, but I'm kind of even though I think it would be neat to have that on TV, I'm kind of glad that HBO has sidelined that because I just don't think that that would be a good thing, honestly. And I know we're kind of getting away from Game of Thrones, who we're supposed to be talking about today. But since we're on the topic of politics right now, maybe it's important to mention that one of the reasons I don't want it there, and okay, this let me be perfectly clear. This is not entirely because of Donald Trump. It's because of people that apparently have been quote unquote inspired by him and his rhetoric, whether he's saying it and meaning it or saying it just to get votes. I don't know. I'm not really going to say. Um, but there are some people that have been inspired by him, and that's why there have been attacks on mosques and at Jewish temples. And there is currently a group in Germany um, call themselves the Third Movement or something like that. I forget what it is. They've even said that they're inspired by him, and I know the president and other people in the Republican Party are like, no, well, you're just taking it out of context. But when you have people who are murdering people or marching in the streets, shouting "Zig Heil" and "Heil Trump" and "Jews will not replace us," it gets kind of scary, and that's kind of um, the vibe I got out of. Actually, it's not really kind of. It is the vibe I got out of Daenerys's speech at to her army. The one you mentioned where she walks out and Drogon raises his wings behind her, which is a wicked shot. That was beautiful. That's probably my favorite scene in all of Game of Thrones ever.
I think it's everyone's favorite thing. But yeah, there was definitely a Nazi Third Reich vibe going on there. There was the Empire from Star Wars, and any really fascist thing you can think of speech.
It was,
was
and I
it
was
was
actually
almost over the top to me a little bit. I it didn't bother me, but it was definitely very heavy handed.
well, see, it was supposed to be. And the reason I say it's supposed to be is because I read an interview uh, with Amelia Clark, and that's literally what she was going for. It's like she watched Hitler give his speeches and intended that to be a reference to Hitler, and it's great. It's
That, that
much better done.
that's really cool that
Much.
she meant it for it to be like that.
It is, but it's much better done than the First Order speech of whatever the hell is the ginger dude in the First Order was just screaming his thing, his message, and she's just standing at the top of the stairs, kind of talking plainly, somehow able to be heard over everything else that's around her and by everybody there. I don't know how she can talk in a normal voice and project herself, but everybody else has to yell and scream. It's weird. Like that is the weirdest thing about Game of Thrones. And if you think about it,
Dragon magic. That's what it is. It's dragon magic.
I guess it is. And if you think about it, this is not the first time that she's done that. When she walks up to, I think it's the city of Marine, and she's standing outside the main gate, she's just talking in a normal voice, and everybody up on the wall is like, "Oh, yeah, uh-huh. You're here to break chains, uh-huh." Yeah, they just understand what she says. And I don't get that. Whatever. It's fine. But yeah, the last season had a lot of ups and downs, and some of the I I don't know. I really wanted to enjoy it, and I think in a lot of ways I didn't. Well, I know I didn't, but I will say that Emilia Clarke's um, acting was spot on the entire season. She was perfect. She's always perfect in that role. Um, Everybody was like they all acted their hearts out, and if you watched the behind the scenes uh, documentary thing about it, you can clearly see that because Kit Harrington was in tears on his final day after he did his last shot, and it's weird, because every time you see him, you don't think, well, this man has ever shed a tear in his life, but no, he's legitimately crying.
I did it with my family and my friend who was with me, and we all just were disgusted at the end. We all hated it. It was so disappointing. It almost ruined the entire series for me, honestly. The ending. Just and it really is sad because like you said, the actors tried really hard. There's so many people in the production that the camera shots were amazing. There were some really beautiful scenes. There was so much effort put into it, and yet I just left with this feeling of huge disappointment and sadness.
I think that seems to be a feeling of a lot of people,
And,
unfortunately. Um,
and I should feel happy because the guy in a wheelchair is now the king of the Seven Kingdoms. And
you should.
I was not happy at all. I was face palming and just shaking my head and so disappointed.
Are you saying Bran, who is not really who he is anymore, is not exciting as king? Him and his monotone delivery, where
Not
he
only
has no emotion anymore. He is not himself. I'm going away now. That
where did he go during that time?
he
Like,
warged into a flock of birds to fly around and look at the Night King and see where they were at. And that's great. It's wonderful. I'm
except
happy that you do that.
He
You
didn't
know,
do anything with that. He didn't do anything with that knowledge.
well, he can watch and be like, "Oh yeah, there's the Night King, yay!" Why don't you warg into a fucking dragon and just fly over and burn shit to the ground? And better yet, why don't you warg into every animal that there is, because he's capable of becoming an entire flock of birds. Why don't you just do that and be like, nature rises up to meet
That
you, like
that
Malfurion
actually
Stormrage.
that would have been so cool if they had done like a Malfurion Storm Rage thing there. So many of my problems with that episode would have just vanished.
And see, with the whole Malfurion thing, there was the I'm trying to find it because I want to show part of it. The episode, well, not net. What am I saying? Episode. It's the Terror of Darkshore cinematic. If you remember, that Blizzard did a while back. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Have it on screen now. Again, not gonna play the audio, but you can all see it. I'm just gonna let it play all the way through. This is a great cinematic, and it's one of the very few times that I have seen Malfurion Stormrage do something, and I'm like, oh my god, he is genuinely a badass. Because, like, okay, in Warcraft 3, you see some of the stuff he does, and it's always referenced how powerful of a druid he actually is. But you don't really ever see it. And in Christy Golden's short story, well, not just hers, there was like two of them, I think. But whenever he's in Darkshore fighting, Sourfang is hearing screams of Horde soldiers off in the distance who are just being murdered by the tree. And you see this in the cinematic, the Terror of Darkshore, where the troll sees him and he is pulling the dude underground with roots, and like in the game, rooting something is kind of awesome, and it's always questionable how it works, like inside, especially places where there are, no trees, and it's supposed to work that way, like it's supposed to be an outdoor thing. But you see him just crush an orc and bury him underground, and I'm like, oh my
Bury him alive
god,
too.
yeah, buries him. He fucking destroys an orc. It's great. Why couldn't they have, Bran do some shit like that in Game of Thrones? I mean, not necessarily, um, like, okay, not use the tree root. I don't know if he can command trees, but just make the animals of the forest, just show up and attack things, and I don't know.
Have a pack of wolves come and do
Yeah,
something, and bears,
you know, lions, tigers, bears, whatever. Just have him do something interesting. That would be great.
Wait, I got it. Have an elephant come out of the forest and
Yes,
just charge you.
yes. Just have it. Yeah, yeah. Have an elephant come out of randomly nowhere. Like the one element. Why do I keep saying element? Damn it, elephant, elephant. The one elephant in
The
the Seven
element,
Kingdoms. Yeah,
the element of the elephant
yeah,
just
yeah.
charges out of the forest.
Yeah.
And then
Element the elephant. Element the elephant. Say that 7 times fast. Element the elephant.
they ride the elephant down to Cersei to show off that they have an elephant.
And she doesn't, because the Golden Company, well, we couldn't bring it with us. Yeah, why not? Why the hell not? If Daenerys, I almost said Daenerys. If Daenerys can bring, you know, tens of thousands of horses across the ocean, surely you can bring a handful of elephants. There's got to be a way to do that. Like, well, we couldn't get them. And god damn it, you know, that is one thing that genuinely pisses me off about the entire series, because you hear about the Golden Company and how amazing they are, and the one time that you see the Golden Company, they're just standing outside of King's Landing and they're just looking around like, we're here to kill things. We got hired to defend the city. And then Daenerys flies in and burns them all alive. And I'm like, I have waited 8 seasons to see the Golden Company, to see how fearsome they actually are, and they all die in about a minute.
That was by far one of it was a season full of just disappointing things. They couldn't show one thing of the Golden Company, crushing something.
I guess they could. I don't know why.
I genuinely think it was budget cuts. I really think that, and I know HBO says they would have given them much more money and time to do things, but for only so many episodes, they're only going to give you so much money. And I think they got rid of the Dothraki army and the Battle of Winterfell early so that they didn't have to film the horse battles, because horse battles are expensive to film. I think they minimized fighting on the attack on King's Landing so that they really didn't need to film a lot for that. I can really point out so many times where you can just be like, they didn't film this because of either time or money.
Well, see, my thing is, if you look at just the Battle of Winterfell alone, now, okay, I know they didn't have, say, the number of extras that were used in the movie Waterloo, which was a lot. Actually, no. Let me go with the more realistic scale here. In the movie Ten Commandments, the one with Charlton Heston as Moses, there were, I think, 14,000 extras in the movie. That's a more reasonable number. Everyone can imagine that. Okay, they didn't use that many. They had maybe 1,000 extras or so. I would have been perfectly okay if they did the thing that they did in John Adams at Washington's inauguration. They used, just, I don't know, like 400 or 500 people, and just kind of had them exchange some flags and a few other things they had, and then kind of shuffle themselves, and they CGI'd all that together. And if you look at it, it's a seamless crowd. It's really well done compared to some of the shit we've had in movies.
The thing that
Looking at you, Star Wars.
The thing that confuses me is you go back to Lord of the Rings battles. Now, sure, they haven't aged quite as well now that we have much better
Look,
CGI and technology.
Excuse me, sir. I defy you to look at the charge of the right of the road and tell me that does not look good.
Oh no, I'm not talking about them specifically. I'm talking about more Sauron's army. It has not aged quite as well, but even still, I don't understand how that many years ago Lord of the Rings can get that so amazing, a large scale battle like that. And now with updated technology today, updated techniques, they just failed so miserably at giving a large scale battle to us.
I am by no means advocating to replace actors with CGI. I understand sometimes you have to do it, and probably the best example is actually the Star Wars prequels. There is maybe like one clone trooper who is an actual person in any of the movies. Any of them. All the rest of them are CGI. And that's cool. I'm okay with that. It looks great. It really does look amazing. And, like, okay, for example, the battle in Geonosis. That is a huge battle. There's a lot going on. And there's no way they could have done that all with practical effects. I am perfectly fine with that because even though it's been over a decade since then, it looks good. It still retains, that that look it had then. It's great. It's aged very well. Lord of the Rings has not entirely, like there's some parts I look at, I'm like, but at the time it was beautiful, and it still is beautiful now. Even, for example, the Battle of Five Armies in The Hobbit. I really hate the movies, but that's especially if you watch the extended scene where you get to hear Billy Connolly do some more act. I love Billy Connolly, by the way. But you get to see more of the dwarves because Baruch Katad! It's great. It's wonderfully done. And then you get to Game of Thrones, and it's like, well, we have 400 extras or whatever it is they have, and they can't even. Well, they probably did with a Dothraki and maybe the Unsullied, maybe, but they can't seem to piece together a massive army and have a massive army fight and it look good. And I don't know why they can't do that because it's not like it's impossible because John Adams did it with as many extras as Game of Thrones probably, and it whatever. I don't know.
It doesn't make any logical sense that they couldn't do it. And it's one of the biggest travesties of the show because these battles we've been building up to for 10 years basically. We were waiting 10 years to see these
Exactly.
epic large scale battles, and all we got to see is little bits and pieces of the battles. We never really see the Night King's army in full night. We never really see how they clash together, how the lines are breaking, and the Night King's overrunning everything. I get that you need close up shots of our heroes fighting valiantly, trying. Sure, that should be the majority of what we're seeing, but we need those large scale shots to really put context, to really put to get a good feeling for the scale of things.
Okay. See, there's another movie that makes me think about that. They use CGI to create some things. Gods and Generals. I wrote a very lengthy series of blog posts about it. Just reviewing the movie. There is a whole battle in that film that it's a deleted scene, and it's less than 10 minutes long. And if they had cut out some of the other non-essential bullshit in the movie, because there's a lot of it, like at some point in time, I want you to watch the director's cut, and we do an episode where we just talk about Gods and Generals because I have a love-hate relationship with the movie. But anyway, the Battle of Sharpsburg, Maryland. I say Sharpsburg. Most people say Antietam because the Union uh, habit for naming battles tends to be nearby bodies of water, and the Southern thing was naming it for where it was at, and it was spotted at Sharpsburg, Maryland. Excuse me. Bloodiest single day in American history. Really important. Really important in the context of the war, and they give it like 10 minutes, but they'll spend nearly half an hour on the Battle of Manassas or something like that. But they could have done more with that and cut out some of the filler. Game of Thrones could have done the same thing. Extend the fucking series, or the season, 2 more episodes, 2 more, and just add a little bit more in to let us see the important things that we're supposed to be. Don't have stupid things like having your and if you notice, um, with both Winterfell and King's Landing, the army, like the majority of the army, was on the outside. Well, rather the Golden Company was on the outside of King's Landing, and they all get slaughtered. And the Dothraki and whatnot are on the outside. Winterfell, and they get slaughtered. And here's what I want to know, and this is probably a good point to end on. Where the hell did the replacements come from for the Dothraki and the Unsullied?
They were on the respawn timer. It, that was probably and the really weird thing is, if you really think about that, it makes the ending make even less sense. Because why would the kingdoms of Westeros be worried about the Unsullied or Dothraki when their forces should be completely devastated? They
They
really
really should have been. They should have been completely wiped out.
the
And
Unsullied should not have any say in anything other than them just being nice to them because they helped out.
pretty much. But I I don't know. I don't know. Like there's a lot more we could unpack when it
Like
comes to Game of Thrones, but
why the dragon decides to randomly burn a chair.
I don't let's not go with Drogon being a good boy, a very good boy.
He
Um,
was the best boy.
Drogon is the best dog ever. Like he's a dog. He's puppy dog. By the way, important thing I learned. Most of his little whimpers and whatnot that he makes, is actually from the sound designer who did all his excuse me, all of his sounds. Um, and they're actually her dog. Like his little noises. Like I can't do it and sound like him, but that's her dog making puppy dog noises, and I think that's great because he's a puppy dog. He's a giant fire-breathing puppy dog that eats 18 goats in a single sitting, and he flies. It's great. I'm okay with that.
I called the dragons puppies the entire season, or the entire time I watched the show, and I was justified, completely justified.
They really are. They really are. But anyway, like I said, I think that's probably a good point to end on because otherwise we could probably go on forever. I think just about the
I
last
think we
season
could
Game of
go on
Thrones.
for the entire day.
I could. I definitely could. But yeah, um, it's great to be back. Really is. Um, I think maybe Friday we'll probably get into a little bit about what's been going on. At least with me, I don't know. I don't know if you want to talk about what's been going on with you. Like not being a robot anymore. Spoiler alert: Nick's no longer a robot.
I was wished into existence.
Yes, he's a real boy now. He's a real boy. We're proud of him. He's growing up big and strong. But
I
yeah,
even have a mustache
he does. He has a mustache now. But yeah,
that I twirl sometimes.
he's a villain. Okay, but um, I. It sounds weird wanting to do the closing that we used to do 2 years ago. What is it? Wow, it seems like it didn't. It seems like it's been 2 years. 2 years. But anyway, we no longer have a Facebook page. We do have YouTube. Have a Patreon where you can give us your money if you really want to. Greatly appreciate it. And if you're watching this live, thank you for watching this live. If you want to watch us live, we'll be on my Twitter via Periscope, and we'll be live on Twitch TV. For watching us on YouTube, sorry you missed it. Missed it live, but you're getting to see a pre-recorded version, and you're gonna have a fun time watching the pre-recorded version because it's not live, and you can watch it when you want to, and can pause it if you get tired of hearing me screaming about Game of Thrones and whatnot. I guess I don't know why you would ever do that because you're great.
I'm sure you're. Well, it's because they need time to rest their voice because they're screaming with us.
Probably. I don't know. Anyway, Friday show, like I said, we may or may not get into a little bit about what's been going on because I've had some interesting stuff that happened to me. But I think Nick wants to talk about Avengers Endgame. So expect another hour of bitching about disappointment.
Wait, what disappointment? That's just all pure joy right there.
No, disappointment. We have to be angry about it because reasons.
No, that show will be nothing but unbridled joy and happiness.
No. It's going to be just like me talking about Dora the fucking Explorer, where it was just, God damn it, I still hate that show. I hate it. I really do.
I'm slightly excited to see the live action movie.
Believe it or not, okay. You know what? Okay, we'll save that for Friday. Okay, let's just pin that right here, and we'll save that for Friday. Not that I want to, rush towards the end of the show or anything, but we'll just save it for Friday because it gives us something to talk about then.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Yay! Yeah, and again, thank you if you watch this live. Really, really do appreciate you watching this live. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us follow me on Twitter because it's my Twitter. Give us your money on Patreon and all that cool stuff, and we will talk to you on Friday.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.